Welcome back to Turf Talk, Kentucky Derby Works Edition, Sunday morning. Gary Young, Scott Shapiro here. Gary, a lot going on today. A lot of trainers deciding to get that final work in 6 days before the Kentucky Derby. Let's get started with what was sort of a chaotic situation, at least to my amateur eyes. We had Country House and Tacitus for Bill Mott working, WinWinWin and another runner for Trombetta. Tacitus broke off outside of Country House, little. Yes. Couple lengths off. Explain what happened in general, and then we'll talk about each horse.
Well, after the breaks at most racetracks is the busiest time with workers, and it's not that unusual for horses to wind up having join in with horses that weren't really planned to do so. The Mott horses, you know, they were working already, and it just coincided that when they got to the half-mile pole that the Trombetta horses were breaking off, and they broke off right with him. They didn't interfere with him. They were out in the 4 and 5 path, and the Mott horses were down on the rail. But it made for an interesting, you know, to see 4 horses working at once. That was, you know, and 3 of them being Derby horses. That was kind of cool. It was kind of cool.
All right, well, let's talk about the individuals. First, let's talk about WinWinWin. We got a bit of a look at him a couple days before he got here, a couple days ago. What did you think of what you saw from him today? He went, let's see, 4 furlongs and 47 and 3.
You know, he was out, you know, he stayed out in the 4 path all the way during the work. The Mott horses were in front of him and on the rail, so they just stayed out there, which makes sense. I didn't think coming into the stretch he was going to catch the 2 Mott horses, but he did. He's a beautiful black horse. I mean, he is gorgeous. You know, the track had a lot of bounce to it this morning. There were many more good works than there were bad works, and you know, he just like lengthened his stride down the stretch, and he wound up catching and going by the Mott horses at the wire. He looked good. You know, I could see him hitting the board somewhere in the Derby off of that work. I could.
Okay, and then the Mott horses, Tacitus and Country House, they went 5 furlongs in a minute flat.
They went okay. I mean, you know, I don't think either one of them is renowned for being great workhorses, and you know, they weren't being asked or anything. You know, the other horse did go by him late, but they were also working 1/8 of a mile further than him. I couldn't knock it. There were more eye-catching works this morning than those 2, but I couldn't knock Billy's 2 horses, no.
Now, I know that kind of stuff happens much more often than in a regular day than it does when there's just the 20-so horses in the Derby and Oaks kind of situation that we have here, the unique situation. But is there any chance that could take something out of a horse like WinWinWin? Kind of seemed like he got real motivated and competitive?
I wouldn't think so, especially 6 days out. The Saturdays and Sundays, weather permitting, are always the busiest days training at a racetrack. Those kind of situations that we've seen with those horses joining in with one another happens all the time. It really does, especially on weekends. You know, if it was closer to the race, they might be a little bit concerned with it, but he's a big, powerful horse. It's 6 days before the race. Michael Trombetta was up on the balcony where we time horses from here, and he didn't seem concerned about that at all. He was very happy with his work.
Good to hear. Yeah, definitely a horse worth consideration, especially in the back end of exotics at a price.
Agree.
All right, Code of Honor we saw for the first time. I know he was out early in the mornings, earlier than we got out here. Today worked 4 furlongs and 46 and 4. Thoughts?
Very efficient, moving, medium-sized horse. Looked good today, as most Derby works were. He looked good. He galloped out good. I think it's an indication on how quick the track was, because Shug is not known for working horses 46 and 4, their last work before the race. But he's a good horse, and it was a fast racetrack, and he did. He galloped out well, and you know, we're going to find out a lot about the Florida preps this weekend. We truly are. So you know, but I could not say anything negative about that work for Shug's horse.
Yeah, from a handicapping perspective, kind of had the flow in his favor in that Fountain of Youth race. Took advantage. Great ride by Johnny V. Probably his peak performance. And then in the Florida Derby was against the flow with that slow pace with maximum security. And ran on okay for 3rd.
He ran okay. I mean, it went from one extreme to another. he got the complete deck trip in the Fountain of Youth, where if they had in-race wagering, you'd have just bet, you'd have went all in on him at the
Right.
half-mile pole, and in the Florida Derby, there wasn't much speed on paper, and it kind of turned out that way, and he was up against it from the word go.
Do you think he's going to be, maybe from just watching him, you think he might be too far out of it or hard to tell? I mean, that's only one. That's my major concern. Might be coming from too far out of it and not so fast paced.
That could be a concern. I mean, as we touched on yesterday, this Derby going in does not seem to be as loaded with early speed as some of the most recent editions of the race, and that could be a concern about that. But when you have Johnny V, it kind of takes away your worries about that kind of stuff.
For sure. A couple horses that are likely to be closer to the early pace also worked this morning. Improbable worked in company, 5 furlongs, a minute and 3/5. Sorry, was a little headstrong. Had Florent Giroux aboard. What were your thoughts on Improbable? I know you've seen a lot of this horse.
He's always been a very athletic, good workhorse. He did pull a little bit, as people will see in the video of the work. He was pulling a little bit. He settled around the turn. He kicked clear of his workmate, and he really, really galloped out good. He's traditionally a very good workhorse. When you have a good workhorse working on a fast racetrack in company, you're going to get something like you got that today. And as I've touched on before, I'm not certain that the 1 1/4 is going to be his friend, but I can definitely see him in the mix somewhere. Whether he could get the roses or not is another question with me, but I could definitely see him running a good race.
That is him being headstrong. Is that normal from him in his works in the past that you've seen, or maybe they're going to show a little speed? Maybe he's just geared up.
The first fraction was a little slow by this track standards today, and he might show a little bit more speed. That's a possibility, but he's always been a willing workhorse, so I wouldn't maybe put too much into that.
Okay, and then by my standards, horse that I know you've liked and pretty much everybody's had good reviews of since he's been here. Worked 4 furlongs in 48 and 4, pretty big gallop out. I thought. What were your thoughts on him?
Terrific. He very, very nice moving horse. He's got a gray tail like a sire Golden Sense. He's definitely taken after his father as far as his looks and markings. The work was good. The gallop out was super.
Yeah.
He's been kind of the buzz horse this week, going in as far as horses that are going to be 10 to 1 or more, and those people that like him, they have nothing to worry about after today. They're going to still be on his train. So we're going to find out how good he is. There are people that question how good a race the Louisiana Derby was, and we're going to find out Saturday.
Yeah, it came back pretty fast for Louisiana Derby. I had my concerns with this horse before this week. I'm kind of getting swayed towards using him. Won't be my top pick, but certainly hard to ignore how he's looked.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, and then a couple of the Baffert horses we saw for the first time this morning after arriving yesterday. Obviously, Improbable we've discussed a little bit, but Roadster and Game Winner. Game Winner was out early this morning. Did you get a chance to see him?
Yeah, I saw him jog. He's just got off the plane about 2 o'clock yesterday. I was Jimmy Barnes, the terrific assistant that Baffert has. He's staying at the same hotel that I'm at, and I was heading out, and he was just heading out to the airport to see them, supervise the shipping from the airport over here, and he just a nice, easy, light jog day. He got his major work in Saturday, so I'm sure it'll just be galloping and just keep him right in a holding pattern for the Derby.
And you mentioned that work that he had back in California. Knowing Bob's patterns and what he does as well as you do, was the 7 furlong work anything out of the norm? Or
No. It's funny. Some trainers don't like to do a whole lot with their last work before the race, but Bob doesn't have any problem with that. One thing that should be noted is the track in California is not the track that people have been used to over the years. It's quite a bit slower, especially in the longer distance works. And I thought both horses considering what the surface is like these days, look good, particularly game winner.
Okay, and then Roadster was the other one. He came out in the normal work period. Any thoughts?
He had his ears going. He was looking all over the place. He definitely was like, I haven't been here before, but this place kind of looks cool, you know.
Right.
It was kind of neat.
Cool. Well, very busy morning. Things will start to slow down a little bit. We'll get new arrivals to discuss. Maybe we'll talk about some horses after these works that they had over the next couple days. But enjoy your Sunday afternoon. No racing here at Churchill, but plenty going on starting tomorrow and all the way through the week. And join us here on Turf Talk.